Thank you very much for joining us today. Let me begin by sharing my deep appreciation for your dedicated service. Your contributions have made our university one of the premier institutions in the country. The impetus for the administrative review is the rapidly changing landscape of public higher education. In the past, declines in state support were caused by economic recessions. As a result, hiring freezes were implemented and key investments were not made, and enrollment growth was the key new revenue source. The downturn eventually reversed after a few years, so hunkering down to wait it out was the de facto strategy. In the current reality, state support can drop, but not due to just economic downturn. There is significant competition for student enrollment at a time when investments in academic, research, and engagement programs are needed more than ever. What we realize is that past practices are now very ill-suited for our current reality. In order to sustain our future financial outlook, we cannot just wait it out like we have done in the past. As a university, we need to take bold actions. Through transformation of our delivery of service, we seek to improve our outcomes. These savings will then be invested back into the campuses. These changes will be designed to also contribute to a more satisfying career path for our staff. We're already beginning to take some of those steps. On May 2nd, we gathered with 100 leaders from all campuses to share conceptual designs and ask for input. I was very energized by the discussions, and I'm excited to share the key takeaways with you today. In just a few moments, you will hear from campus leaders about the collaborative design process. But most importantly, we want to hear from you today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cuba Plain, and I'm the Interim Vice Chancellor for Finance and Operations at Missouri S&T. I'm here today to report out on the collaborative design session and also just to give you some background on the tools that we used to help us support the initiatives that are going forward. This slide shows us the results of the system-wide activity analysis, and this was taken by all administrative and support staff at the institution. And the results showed that of the 5 key administrative areas that we're reviewing, there were approximately 30% of all the time for all staff at the university participated in these functions, and that was about 3,600 FTE. And the reason that we wanted to do the activity analysis was really to understand the process and how work is done at the university, and therefore we could identify where there might be areas for improvement in the processes. This next slide shows the activity analysis results for the first 3 that we're going to evaluate: finance, human resources, and information technology. As you can see from these pie charts, the percent of FTE that is divided into those people who report directly up through the central offices, or in the case of finance, through the chief financial officer either on the campus or the system, and those who are performing finance functions that report to a different organizational structure. The same is true with human resources and IT. What's really interesting is that for the finance function, only about a quarter of the FTEs that are performing finance actually report up through the central finance organization. For human resources, it's about a third, while information technology, by contrast, 3/4 of their employees work directly and report directly to the central IT offices. So this slide really shows us the heart of the activity analysis results. And the takeaway is that the majority of staff who perform HR and finance functions typically work across multiple functional areas, where those performing IT functions typically spend most of their time within one single functional area. So for IT, 70% of the FTE do just IT or IT and one other primary function, where in finance and human resources, 54% of the people in finance spend their time on 4 or more primary functions. And in HR, 60% of the people who are doing HR work spend their time on 4 or more different functions. So what this really shows us, especially in finance and human resources, is that we have very distributed work processes that are performed by generalists. And this provides us an opportunity to really look at the way work is done at the institution to see how we can improve those work processes. We can do streamlining, we can provide better tools, and better training to our staff. What this will allow also as we look at how work is organized and performed is really to allow our staff to move from more generalist roles to specialist roles and also to provide better career paths for our staff. The second component of the data behind our analysis and studies was the voice of the customer survey. And it asked a select number of end users what they thought the importance, effectiveness, and quality was of the services provided by HR, IT, and finance. The respondents represented units all across the UM system and all the campuses at multiple levels in the organization in a wide range of departments. And really, the results from both the activity analysis and the customer survey didn't give us any new information, so to speak, but they really confirmed many of our previous assumptions. But what was important is that they replaced those assumptions with data that can be used to drive effective decision-making and to target our areas of emphasis where we have the best opportunity for good return, and that is those processes that impact and touch the most people. So the next question really is, where do we go from here? This shows 3 different delivery methods that we're going to look at as we evaluate and organize administrative services in the future. And these 3 are strategic campus partners, centers of expertise, and shared services. I want to start with the shared services and talk about that a little bit. This technique, while the term is used a lot, I want to let you know how we're really defining this term. And for us, this is the type of tool that we will use primarily targeted at transactional processing service support, or what I would call back office transactional functions. And so this is the type of a delivery system that we would use where the type of work is very transactional, repetitive, and high volume, and that the face-to-face person contact is really not that important. It can be divided by well-defined automated processes and business rules, and it can be documented and taught to others. So we think that this type of process is really appropriate for certain types of our work, and that if we can gain efficiencies from the types of transactional work through this model, then we can reinvest those resources into the campus strategic partners, which is where more investment should occur. These are the activities that we do where we really add value. It's strategic activities focused on planning, problem solving, and really enabling the university to accomplish its objectives. And these are very driven by relationships, and they require a strong understanding of the business model for each individual department and also the university's broader goals. And these will be the types of work that are really important to be aligned at the campus and in colleges and schools to really make the most of those relationships. The third type, centers of expertise, is kind of in the center of the slide. And those are the types of work that really require a great deal of deep subject matter expertise or business expertise. And many of these already exist today at the system level. A couple of examples are the Treasury and risk and insurance management. But also we believe that this type of delivery mechanism can be used at either the campus level or perhaps the college and school level for specific types of work that require specific functional or business expertise. So in summary, the data that were provided by the activity analysis and the voice of the customer survey, along with the evaluations and discussions using these 3 different types of delivery methods, will be used as we evaluate the different functions and determine which we will focus on first, second, and later. That will be driven by where we think there are the largest opportunities for improvement and those that touch most of our customers across the campus so that we can improve the workflow process for everyone as well as driving more efficiencies from the process and improving the way we do our work at the university.
Hello, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Rhonda Gibler, the Vice Chancellor for Finance at the Columbia campus. I'm happy to speak with you today on behalf of my counterparts and give you an overview of what we covered during the collaborative design session. We have taken into consideration some helpful key feedback that we received through that session and are moving forward in ways that we think will be beneficial for the university in general. When we think about finance, there's some key things that we understand very clearly, that service and getting what you need to get done each day in the finance realm is a key component of each of us being successful. So as you see, we've represented finance as a triangle. And you can, in some ways, think of that like Maslow's hierarchy of needs that we talk about in so many different ways. If we can't meet the base of the triangle, the things that people count on day in and day out to get their job done, other things become less important. So we understand clearly we need to be delivering high-quality services in ways that help each of you meet your objectives day in and day out. We also believe, though, that finance has a role in how we lead our university to the bright future we know we have. And so that requires that we think about financial leadership in ways that partner with each parts of our university to deliver on the promise we hold in our programming. Finance has a role in helping us identify what our opportunities are and how to best deliver on those, and always, though, led by what our programmatic missions are. When you look at the triangle, there are several things we're depicting for you. We're showing that financial leadership is part of it, as I've just described. But we think that the transactions and the processes that need to be completed in our work can be broken down to a few different aspects. Centers of expertise are places where we believe there's very in-depth knowledge required to ensure that our university is performing at a very high level in keeping with entities of our size and scope. Those kinds of centers of expertise are handled in ways that allow us to recruit individuals who are extreme experts in the knowledge area that you might see reflected there. So internal audit, for example, and treasury and others are places where we want to make sure that we all are being served by experts in those fields. Then things like shared services are places where we try to ensure that the transactions that need to be completed are handled in a way that we have folks who really understand the transaction and are very proficient in doing it well. Shared services do not imply a particular location that the service is provided. It just indicates that we will try to find the effective and efficient place in which we can work together to deliver on those services. So it could be that working together at a department level is a shared service environment. It could be at a college level, it could be at a campus level, it could be at a system level. But the concept is to ensure that we put transactions together in a way that we do them efficiently and effectively. Finance has some key things involved in our mission, vision, and values. Many of those I've described through my explanation of how we see this triangle of services. We're sharing with you today a statement that we believe is the vision or the role statement for finance. We believe that it's critical that finance act as a strategic business partner with the organization to ensure that we can carry out the important missions and priorities of our university. And we do that through those different aspects I've been touching on. So we talked a bit about leadership that fits with stewardship in that we need to ensure that each of us takes our role in protecting the resources and assets that we have access to and use them in the most strategic and advantageous way to deliver on our missions. We need, as a finance function, to deliver value to ensure that each part of the university can get their job done and have finance serve them versus be a hurdle to getting their work done. And we do that through a mindset of being collaborative and courageous in the way we carry out our service. And by saying that, we mean we need to understand very clearly from around the university what it is folks are needing to get done, and we then want to carry out the finance function in a way that assists in getting it done. And by courageous, we mean trying new things when necessary and helping others see where we might see an issue and taking the time to explain why it might be a concern. We then have laid out for you some of our goals. We want to make sure that we develop consistent and unified strategy around finance. We want to design optimized finance delivery model, make sure we have people, processes, and technology that support doing the job well. And we want to drive broader accountability and fiscal responsibility in the decision-making processes, which means that people who are tasked with making decisions on behalf of the university are held accountable for the way they carry those responsibilities out from a fiscal perspective. So when we think about what the finance service delivery framework will look like, again, you see we have our triangle in the corner of the slide, and that's to represent that there are different aspects of how this will be carried out. And we're wanting to represent for you that we understand as a partner, there's leadership in many levels of the institution that are responsible for carrying out the missions. So you see president, chancellor, provost, deans and directors, department chairs. All of these individuals have leadership roles to carry out on behalf of the missions of the university. We see finance as needing to be a key partner with those leaders and bring to bear on our problems and opportunities of the future the kinds of finance goals, opportunities to move forward our mission in the most effective way possible. So we want you to see that we have key takeaways in terms of fiscal responsibility, meaning that the interactions between the academic and operational parts of the institution with the financial folks will drive the fundamental change that we need to ensure the university can be sustainable into the future. And we also believe that we need to have ways to measure what we're doing and how we're performing so that we can demonstrate how we're using the resources entrusted to us and help decision makers understand the fiscal consequences and the fiscal opportunities before them. When we look at where we see some of these opportunities in the future, we believe that on the service side of the equation, there are particular functions of the university that could be carried out in a more effective manner. We want to try and make sure that we have tools in people's hands that allow them to do the work in a very effective way. We'll be focusing on the procure-to-pay kinds of processes. We also want to make sure that we put in people's hands tools that allow them to do good business analysis, effective budgeting and forecasting, that we know that management reporting needs to be strengthened so that folks have the right data to use in making the decisions they're expected to make. We know that there are opportunities in how we deal with our internal charging of each other and the way that we allocate our resources. In closing, let me say that from the finance perspective, we want to make sure that there's a clear understanding of what finance's role is so that we can work together as a team. We need to focus on what it is finance can do that allows there to be differentiating capabilities that help set the university apart because of how we handle our resources. We want to deliver shared services in ways that make everyone's work as efficient as possible so that individuals who are at the university to carry out the research, instruction, and outreach and extension missions can spend the bulk of their time on those activities and not spending time dealing with transactions that are more difficult than necessary. We want to partner with the different parts of the university, each of us as a finance professional, to ensure that the differences among our respective areas are respected and that from a finance perspective, we are using the right tools and having the right conversations about how to help that part of our university thrive. And then we feel very strongly that we need to adopt a customer service mentality and ensure that staff are comfortable that they can rely on finance to answer the questions that they have and get the support that they need.
Hello, my name is Carol Hintz, Vice Chancellor of Human Resources at UMKC. I will be highlighting what my counterparts and I covered during the collaborative design session, as well as address some of the key pieces of feedback we heard during the session. This slide reflects the ultimate vision of HR and the strategic pillars related to the services that HR should deliver and the capabilities required to allow us to do so. I would like to walk through the role statement. HR will serve as a strategic advisor. We will support an inclusive and dynamic culture and workforce. We will pursue improvement through knowledge, cooperation, and leadership. The strategic pillars you see here include workforce planning, which is attracting and retaining top talent, people development. This speaks to our culture of continuous learning. Efficient HR operations addresses HR workflow and technology solutions. High-quality HR service, culture and climate, fostering a climate to enhance the employee experience. And then you'll see HR critical behaviors. These are the capabilities that will allow HR professionals to deliver the services just discussed. This is a view of the proposed model of how HR services can be organized in the future and what areas will be shifting in our future state to enable us to deliver on our strategic objectives. I will be reviewing these in depth later, but wanted to initially orient you to the direction we are presenting. The goal is simplifying and improving our HR processes and policies. This slide represents how we think about organizing HR services into one of the three areas: shared services, centers of excellence, and HR strategic partners. This does not represent location, geography, or funding requirements. Generally, we sought to shift work that was transactional in nature to shared services. We looked at areas that require a specialized skill set and should be deployed consistently with standard policies, methods, and tools, and we grouped those into centers of expertise. We then identified the things that are going to be required to be delivered by dedicated human resource campus partners, including activities that may not be delivered today, but can provide our units and schools with additional value. So what are the big shifts and opportunities for HR? What we have identified are consistent with the voice of the customer and activity analysis results indicate as an opportunity, as well as what organizations are doing to try to optimize how they deliver HR services. Shift 3 is shifting transactional HR work to shared services and self-service. As we confirm through the activity analysis data, this is work that is being performed today by distributed resources. Part of the shift is finding ways through workflow and technology to better automate how these activities are performed. EPAFs are a good example. We currently use digital forms, but are not necessarily integrated through workflow. Shift 2, driving greater specialization of HR services and skills by utilizing common centers of expertise across campuses. One example would be our opportunity to employ full-cycle recruiting to provide a better service to the units and to free up their time to focus on academic activities. Shift 1, positioning our HR campus partners to focus more on consultative support and planning for each unit's people needs. In these roles, the HR campus partners will serve as a single point of contact for leaders and will be able to provide a greater consistency in service and quality. Our key takeaways from the collaborative design session include helping drive academic excellence, focusing on leadership and professional development, emphasizing customer service and serving as an advisor, embedding diversity and inclusion into all that HR does, and acknowledging our need for standardization. HR needs more clearly defined and consistent policies and procedures. Overall, there was agreement by participants on the proposed conceptual model and concepts of driving more specialization of centers of expertise and pushing for economics of scale for shared service transactional activities. There was acknowledgement that distributed HR resources will need to be addressed, but requires a thoughtful, well-planned approach and communication. There was recognition that collaboration between HR and other functions is essential to working effectively. There was also feedback that as a part of the redesign of HR, it is important to balance standardization with individualized solutions to account for the nuances of each campus.
My name is Jane Williams, and I'm the CIO at UMSL. Over the next few minutes, I'll highlight what my counterparts and I covered during the collaborative design session, as well as what we learned and heard during that session. Here you'll see the mission, vision, and values of IT across the system. Our role is to serve as a trusted advisor and strategic partner to university leaders. IT is foundational to achieving UM system goals, and our strategic objectives of service focus, optimized process management, and strong IT leadership reflect that. Once the role and objectives are approved in the next month or so, they'll be reviewed yearly, but should only change slightly year to year. The fiscal year 18-19 IT goals you see here will change year to year, and we can grow and adapt to the rapid change needed if our teams are accountable, cost-aware, constituent-focused, and most of all, courageous, collaborative, and innovative. The conceptual model for future IT should look familiar, as it has the same structure used for finance and HR. Once again, it's important to note that nothing on this chart represents location, geography, or placement. Strategic campus partners are involved in non-transactional activities focused mainly on consulting, planning, and problem-solving at the campus level. An example of this would be business relationship managers and also IT project managers. Centers of expertise are IT areas that require deep subject matter knowledge. These are teams with skills that work together better across systems, sharing knowledge and workloads. Examples of this will be the IT developers and also specialized research IT support. Shared services are services that are foundational and standard. These are the ones that require high availability and reliability across the system, such as the help desk and support centers. You'll see this with enterprise application support, and also our security and compliance across campuses is already being integrated. And we're glad that we've been doing this, as this is something that was important to you, as we saw in the voice of the customer. The IT service delivery model represents really the interaction between these areas of IT and our customers. Again, it does not represent location, geography, or placement of the services. And one of the key takeaways from this model is the addition of self-service. We know that it's an area we could benefit from here at UMSL, and it's a great candidate for some early efforts across systems. As we interacted with campus leaders in the collaborative design session, IT's role became clear. It all revolves around supporting students and providing them with an engaging and meaningful experience. To accomplish this, IT can partner across the university system to drive innovation and provide the foundation for the delivery of amazing academic programs. IT has many ways to add value in the future, and as a representative of the entire IT system team, I say that we're excited to have the opportunity to take a step back and build IT the way you and we want it to be, to help achieve the goals of the system as we take on a challenging future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for participating today. As a university, we are facing a future that is filled with great potential and also challenges. To develop a stronger and more resilient university, we must seek new approaches. At the core, we must focus on investments that support student success, research breakthroughs, and effective engagement. Your support is central to our mission. As part of this process, difficult decisions will need to be made. But we want to arrive at those decisions through a transparent, accountable, and collaborative manner. That is why your input is so critical. So in closing, we'll provide regular updates for our staff and faculty throughout the process. Thank you for all that you do.